Morning, Glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt, joined by one of my great friends in the United States Senate, Senator James Lankford, one of the most conservative members of the Senate, also one of the most genteel, soft-spoken, well-respected, and genuinely liked members of the Senate. So we always are glad to have him here. Senator, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I should say aw shucks after that introduction.
You should, aw shucks, but it's deserved. I wouldn't say it otherwise. Senator, you are on finance, so I want to bring up three things. The debt limit is coming, the reconciliation bill is coming, and the infrastructure bill may or may not be coming. Let's take them in reverse order. As of Wednesday morning, July 21st, what do you expect today when Chuck Schumer moves a vote on the infrastructure so-called compromise bill?
So he will move to a bill with no text. In fact, the text is not even written yet, and say, I want to start debate on it today, and it will go down. It should be a pretty basic statement to say we're not going to debate something if no one has literally not read it because it's literally not been written yet. So that's a whole new level of we've got to pass it before we know what's in it, to a point to say let's vote on it before we even have it written yet. So no, that will fail today. That allows, by the way, procedurally, Schumer will still be able to bring it back up whenever he wants to. Just because it fails today doesn't end it. It puts it in this pause that he can bring up at any moment in the days ahead. And I would expect he would try to do that again, depending on what happens.
Now, Senator Lankford, I have been amazed by the left, right, center agreement that this makes no sense for Senator Schumer to do. Have you discerned some master plan at work in the majority leader's mind that is somehow eluding every reporter in D.C.?
No, the only thing I can think of is he's trying to just push it and to say, if this is going to happen, let's have it happen right now, because if it's not going to happen, then I want to just cram all this same information into this giant tax and spending spree bill that they're pulling together to come up next. And I think he's saying if we're not going to get a bipartisan bill done, then I'm just going to make the other bill even larger and be able to keep going from there. And so I think he's just trying to discern, is this going to happen or not? It's the best I can tell. Quite frankly, it's a terrible way to be able to actually legislate when you know we're working towards 60. He keeps trying to say, well, we can't get to 60. We can't get to 60, so Republicans are so recalcitrant. And then he continues to do stuff like this, where even people on the left say, well, what in the world? Why would you do it this way? But he'll turn around and blame Republicans when it's over, and the willing media will just take it up and just say, yes, Republicans blocked this measure.
You know, I think it's pretty threadbare. I don't think it's going to work. But now let me jump over reconciliation to the debt ceiling, because Leader McConnell is quoted in Punchbowl News this morning as telling Punchbowl the debt ceiling has to be raised in the reconciliation because not one Republican will vote for it. And if that is the case, then reconciliation has got to move in a hurry. Is that, in fact, the correct assessment of the consequences of Leader McConnell's statement?
Well, that would be correct. The debt ceiling does not have to move until probably 2 months from now. It ends, the actual debt ceiling deadline is the end of July. But there will be what's called extraordinary measures that the Treasury can take up that will extend it out for the next couple of months that they can continue to be able to do. So it doesn't have to be done by the end of July. But Democrats are going to have to do this. And the reason is we've been very focused. Our conference has been clear. I've been very clear for years. We should not do a debt ceiling without actually debating debt and deficit and talking about how do we stop adding more debt and deficit. You can't solve the deficit that we have in a single year, but you can certainly change the trajectory, which we did. You go back to 2011 and 12 in trying to be able to change the way that we were actually doing budgeting, and we actually reduced spending for a couple of years there, trying to get us back on the right trajectory. That's long gone. We've got to actually do real reforms. I've got bills like ending government shutdowns, things that get us back to actually debating again the budget issues, trying to be able to resolve how we handle all the different budget procedures. We've got to get to some structural changes so that we get a different outcome, because if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same results, and this is not working for our American public.
Now, this audience is pretty savvy about what reconciliation is. It's a budget maneuver that only requires a simple majority as opposed to 60 votes.
Right.
And it allows a House budget resolution and a Senate budget resolution, which can be passed by simple majority in the committee, to be reconciled and passed with a simple majority. And that's where you can do tax and spend. That's all you can put into reconciliation. If it's not germane to taxing and spending, it can't get in.
Right.
If the debt limit has to be a part of that, doesn't that blow up the Bernie plan?
Well, the Bernie plan, I would hope, gets blown up regardless. He wants to do a $6 trillion tax and spend plan. Democrats have said, well, we will settle only for a $3.5 trillion plan. which, by the way, equals about the total number of amount of spending that we do on a typical year for everything, for all spending that they want to do in addition. This would push us to about $12 trillion that the Democrats are pushing to pass this year, when a typical year we're going to spend about $4 trillion. So the numbers are so enormous that we lose track of really how big these numbers really are. And I think that's part of the problem, is they continue to just be able to throw out these giant numbers. If I can make, I know it's hard to do numbers, but one of the best ways that I've seen on this is if you talk about seconds rather than dollars. A million seconds is about 11 and a half days. A billion seconds is 31 and a half years, and a trillion seconds is 31,600 years.
Wow.
So the difference between...
Can you repeat that? That's really great.
A million seconds is 11 and a half days. A billion seconds is 31 and a half years, and a trillion seconds is 31,600 years.
So they want to do 3.5 trillion minimum, and Bernie wants 6 trillion, which takes us into the 100,000 to 200,000 years.
Yeah, the numbers are enormous. Again, we just get used to hearing these numbers: billions, trillions, millions. What's the difference on that? There's an enormous difference between all of these, and so the size gap that they're talking about in spending, again, talking about in one bill, in this tax and spending bill that they're bringing up, this reconciliation. That is $3.5 trillion, equal to what is a typical year of total spending. They want to do just on top of all other spending, on top of the $2 trillion that they did that caused so much inflation earlier in this year and so many issues. They want to create all these new entitlements. They want to create all this radical change in how we do tax policy. And the simplest way to say it is, everything that Bill Clinton did when he was president on ending welfare as we know it and ending the era of big government, they want to undo all of that. The current Democrat Party is rejecting everything from the Democrats of the 90s, whether it be Hyde Amendment, whether it be limiting the size of government, whether it be limiting spending or trying to deal with deficit. They reject everything the Democrats did in the 1990s and said that was all wrong. We're now going to spend all we want. We're going to break the Hyde Amendment. We're going to pay for abortions with federal fundings. We're going to do everything else. So it is a radical shift for the left.
Now, Senator Lankford, you have some friends across the aisle. You're well known for getting along, even though you don't vote with them and you oppose them every way you can. I am curious if they talk to you about adding $3.5 or more trillion when inflation is taken off. I don't know what the people of Oklahoma are experiencing, but in Virginia and California, inflation's in the saddle.
It is tremendous inflation right now, whether it be wood for construction materials, aluminum, metals, windows, siding, whether it be gasoline that's increased $1 a gallon, whether it be groceries, everything, the prices would go up. And most folks in Oklahoma don't talk about inflation. They just say, why does everything cost so much now? It's just changed dramatically, and it's changed dramatically since March. And we can go back and look at it and go, yeah, that's when that $2 trillion bill dropped in March. And then we've watched this dramatic shift that has actually occurred. And I know, many Obama economists and everybody else stepped out early and said, don't do this to the Biden team. They rejected it, and now they're talking about doubling the size of it and doing it again.
Now, Senator, in terms of that, you're running for re-election this year. I think you've got a pretty easy race. What's your website, by the way, your campaign website?
Well, I'm actually inside the building, inside a federal building, so I can't run it right now. But I bet folks can figure it out. But
okay, people can figure it out. I am curious, when you look ahead, what will be the issues in this cycle? I think inflation is going to be the issue, and national security. What do you think is going to be the?
I think inflation will be a huge issue. I think the issues like what's happening on the southwest border, and people can see with their eyes the change in policies. I think it'll be a big issue about employment. There'll be lots of folks that are working, and they say, I know somebody, whether it's my cousin, my neighbor, or somebody else that used to work alongside of me that's now not working, staying home, just getting free money, and there'll be a real frustration with that. So there's some key areas that are both economic, job, and social issues that I think a lot of people will look at and go, why don't I feel as safe as I used to? Why is crime rate going up? Why do we have greater crossings illegally in the southwest border? Why do we have prices that are going up this way? And they'll ask a simple question: how do we put a check on this presidency? Because this is going exactly the wrong way.
Well, now then, last minute, Senator, there is absolutely no reason that the Democrats cannot pass a reconciliation bill with a debt ceiling. If the government shuts down, it's because of the Democrats.
That's
Has
correct.
that been clearly communicated? They have the whole government. They have the majority. they can pass the debt ceiling, and they can do it via reconciliation. Has that been clearly communicated in Oklahoma?
No, it is clear. Democrats have made it clear, quite frankly, that we're in charge and we're going to do whatever we want to be able to do. And they're going to try to push through the reconciliation bill. It's striking. When we were in charge in 2017, the reconciliation bills that we were doing were reducing taxes, reducing regulations, reducing burdens on the American people. They come in charge, and immediately they want to do the largest tax increase in American history. They want to do the largest spending bill in American history. They want to dramatically increase debt. So it's pretty stark, the differences right now.
Senator James Lankford, always good to talk to you. Thank you for joining me. I'll be right back. America, don't go anywhere. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Frost Travel.